Dear listener, welcome back to another evening with the tales of Arthur and his realm. Tonight, we turn to a chapter both beautiful and tragic. A love that would tear the round table apart, stone from stone, brother from brother. In our last gathering, the Grail quest had ended. Galahad had ascended to the heavens. Many knights had fallen along the way. Camelot stood quieter than it had in years, hollowed out, like a great tree after a storm has passed through. But there was something else stirring beneath the surface. Something that had been there all along. Waiting. A love that had survived battles and quests, winter and summer, silence and song. And now, it could hide no longer. Tonight, we will walk beside Lancelot as he returns from the quest. Changed, carrying the weight of what he could not achieve. We will watch Guinevere as she feels him pulling away, the cold distance growing between them like frost on glass. And we will witness how love, despite all resolution, despite all consequence, finds its way back, like water finding its course. So let yourself drift now. Just listen, and let the story carry you gently, like a leaf floating down a quiet stream. Are you ready? Then let us begin. Chapter 1: The Struggle After the Grail. When Lancelot returned from the Grail quest, he was not the same man who had left. The other knights noticed it first. He barely spoke at the round table. His laughter, once so easy and warm, had disappeared. He would sit at feasts with his hands folded, staring at nothing, as if seeing something far away that no one else could see. What haunted him was both simple and terrible. He had failed. At the Chapel of the Grail. When the sacred vessel had appeared in blazing light, he had been turned away. Not by force, but by his own unworthiness. The voice had been gentle, almost sad. "You cannot enter here, Lancelot. Your heart is divided." He knew what it meant. His love for Guinevere, the queen, the wife of his king, his dearest friend. That love had barred him from the holiest of mysteries. And so he made a decision born of shame and honor and desperate hope. He would end it. He would break his own heart, if that's what it took, but he would become worthy again. He began to avoid her. When she entered the hall, he would find a reason to leave. When she spoke to him, he answered in brief, formal words. Like a stranger might. He stopped meeting her eyes. He took every mission, every errand that would carry him away from Camelot, away from her. And Guinevere noticed everything. At first, she told herself it was the grief of the quest. So many had died. Lancelot had always taken such losses deeply. She waited for him to come to her, as he always had before, to sit in the quiet of her chambers and speak of his sorrow. But he did not come. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. The distance between them grew like winter ice spreading across a lake. And slowly, confusion turned to pain. Pain turned to something sharper. Had she done something wrong? Had he stopped loving her? The questions circled in her mind like hawks, never landing, never leaving. One evening, she sent for him. A simple message delivered by a trusted handmaiden. "The Queen wishes to speak with you." He sent back a reply, "I am needed elsewhere." Just those words. Nothing more. She wept that night. Alone in her chambers, she wept for the first time in years, and hated herself for it. Lancelot, meanwhile, rode out on yet another quest. This one was minor, almost meaningless. A dispute between two minor lords over a bridge. But he took it. Anything to be away. Anything to quiet the ache that sat in his chest like a stone. He tried to pray. He knelt in roadside chapels and abbeys, asking for strength, for clarity, for peace. But peace did not come. At night, he dreamed of her. Her voice. Her face. The way candlelight caught in her hair. The dreams were so vivid that he would wake gasping, as if drowning. For 3 months, he stayed away. 3 long months. But distance, as it turns out, cannot cure love. It can only sharpen it. When Lancelot finally returned to Camelot, it was early autumn. The trees were turning gold and red. The air smelled of wood smoke and apples. He rode through the gates telling himself he could do this. He could be strong. He could serve Arthur with a pure heart, and keep his distance, and in time, perhaps the pain would fade. He was wrong. The first time he saw her again was in the great hall. She was standing by a window, speaking with one of the ladies of the court. The afternoon sun came through the glass and turned her gown to gold. She turned, and their eyes met. Everything he had built, every wall, every resolution, every prayer, crumbled to dust. That night, he went to her chambers. He didn't plan to. His feet simply carried him there, as if they knew a path his mind could not forget. When she opened the door and saw him standing there, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. She stepped back. He entered. The door closed softly behind him. And there, in the candlelight, they both surrendered. To each other. To the love they had tried so hard to deny. It came back fiercer than before, like a fire that had been smothered but never truly extinguished. "I tried," he whispered. "God knows I tried." "I know," she said, and held him. Outside, the world continued. The castle slept. The guards made their rounds. The stars turned in their slow dance across the sky. But inside that room, 2 hearts had made their choice. And choices, as we know, have consequences. Chapter 2: Mordred and Agravaine's Conspiracy. Not everyone in Camelot wished the lovers well. There was a man named Mordred. You may have heard his name whispered in earlier tales. He was young, dark-haired, with eyes that seemed to see through everything and everyone. He sat at the round table now, having earned his place through skill in battle and a tongue that knew how to shape words like daggers. But Mordred carried a secret. A secret that burned in him like poison. He was Arthur's son. Not born of Guinevere, but of Arthur's half-sister, Morgause. The union had happened years ago, when Arthur was barely more than a boy, before he knew who Morgause truly was. Some say she had enchanted him. Some say it was simple, tragic ignorance. Either way, the result was Mordred. And Mordred knew. He had always known. He knew he was born of sin and secrecy, hidden away, raised in shadows while Arthur built his shining kingdom. The knowledge twisted inside him, year after year, until it became something cold and sharp. He wanted what Arthur had: the crown, the glory, the love of the people. But to take it, he would need to destroy Arthur first. And for that, he needed a weapon. He found one in Agravaine. Agravaine was one of the sons of Lot, brother to Gawain, Gaheris, and Gareth. But where Gawain was noble and Gareth was gentle, Agravaine was bitter. He had always been the overlooked one, the middle son, the one whose achievements were never quite enough. And he hated Lancelot with a passion that had long since curdled into something obsessive. Lancelot was everything Agravaine was not. Beloved, celebrated, perfect in the eyes of the king and the court. It was unbearable. One night, Mordred and Agravaine sat together in a dim corner of the hall, cups of wine between them. Mordred spoke softly, carefully, like a man baiting a trap. "Have you noticed," he said, "how often the Queen and Lancelot find themselves alone together?" Agravaine's eyes narrowed. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting nothing," Mordred replied smoothly. "I'm simply observing. As I'm sure you have observed. The way they look at each other. The way she smiles only for him. The way he lingers when others have left." Agravaine leaned forward. "Treason," he whispered. "If it's true, it's treason." "If it's true," Mordred agreed. "But we would need proof, wouldn't we? We couldn't accuse the Queen on mere suspicion. Arthur would never believe it." And so, the conspiracy began. They started watching. Mordred and Agravaine became shadows, always present, always listening. They bribed servants with silver and promises. They noted the times Lancelot entered the Queen's wing. They recorded which nights the guards were sent away. They built their case piece by piece, like men constructing a gallows. It took weeks, but eventually, they had what they needed. Or at least, they believed they did. One cold morning, they came to Arthur in his private chamber. The king was alone, reading through reports from the northern borders. He looked up, surprised to see them together. "My lord," Mordred said, his voice grave, "we must speak with you. It concerns a matter of great delicacy." Arthur set down the parchment. Something in Mordred's tone made his stomach tighten. "Speak, then." Agravaine stepped forward. "My king, we bring you news that breaks our hearts. But loyalty demands we tell you the truth." He paused, letting the weight settle. "The Queen and Lancelot, they have betrayed you." The room went very still. Arthur stared at them. His face showed nothing. But inside, something broke. Because here was the terrible thing. he had known. Not with certainty, but with the quiet, awful knowing that lives beneath words. He had seen the way they looked at each other. He had felt the silences. He had chosen, again and again, not to see. "You accuse the queen of adultery," Arthur said slowly. Each word felt like a stone. "That is a grave charge. Do you have proof?" "We have seen them," Agravaine said. "We have witnesses. But if you require more..." He glanced at Mordred. Mordred stepped closer. "Let us catch them, father." The word hung in the air, deliberate and strange. "Let us prove it beyond doubt. Announce that you will be away hunting tomorrow night. Give them opportunity. We will be watching." Arthur closed his eyes. The choice before him was impossible. Ignore the accusation and live in the shadow of doubt forever. Or set a trap for the two people he loved most in this world. When he opened his eyes again, they were cold as winter stone. "Very well," he said. "Tomorrow night, I ride out to hunt. You will do what you must. But understand this." His voice dropped to something dangerous. "If you are wrong, if you have slandered the queen with lies, I will see you both hang." Mordred bowed. Agravaine bowed. And both men smiled as they left the room. The trap was set. Chapter 3: The Fatal Night. The next evening, Arthur rode out from Camelot with a small hunting party. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of amber and blood. He did not look back at the castle. He could not. Inside the queen's chambers, candles were being lit. Guinevere sat by the window, her hands folded in her lap, watching the darkness gather. She had received a message earlier, slipped to her by a trusted maid. Just 3 words, in Lancelot's handwriting: "Tonight, after moonrise." She knew she should refuse. She knew the danger. But she also knew that she could not live without seeing him, without hearing his voice, without feeling his presence near her. Love, after all, does not bow to reason. When the moon rose, pale and full, there was a soft knock at her door. She opened it. Lancelot stood there, wearing a simple tunic, no armor, no sword. Just a man, coming to see the woman he loved. "Come in," she whispered. They sat together by the fire. For a while, they did not speak. Words felt too small for what they carried. Finally, Lancelot broke the silence. "We cannot go on like this," he said quietly. "Someday, we will be discovered. Someday, Arthur will know." "I know," Guinevere said. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "But I cannot give you up, Lancelot. I have tried. God knows I have tried." "As have I," he said, and took her hand. Outside the door, in the shadowed corridor, Mordred stood with 12 knights. Agravaine was among them, his hand on his sword. 2 of the knights, younger men with troubled faces, were Gaheris and Gareth, Gawain's brothers. They had been ordered to come. They did not want to be there. Mordred raised his hand. Silence. Then, In a voice loud enough to carry, he shouted, "Lancelot, in the name of the king, open this door." Inside the chamber, Lancelot and Guinevere froze. The world seemed to stop. "We know you are in there, traitor." Agravaine's voice, sharp with triumph. "Come out and face your crime." The pounding began, fists on wood. The door shook. Guinevere's face went white. "They'll kill you," she whispered. "Lancelot, you have no armor, no weapon." "I know," he said. He stood, his jaw set. "But I will not let them take you. I will not." He went to the door. Behind him, Guinevere was weeping, her hands pressed to her mouth. Lancelot looked back at her once, his eyes full of sorrow and love. Then he threw open the door. The first knight lunged forward, sword raised. Lancelot moved like lightning. He caught the man's wrist, twisted, and with his bare hands, snapped it. The sword clattered to the floor. Lancelot scooped it up and, in one fluid motion, drove it through the knight's chest. It was Agravaine. He fell without a sound. The corridor erupted into chaos. Knights surged forward, shouting, steel ringing against stone. Lancelot fought like a man possessed. He had no shield, no armor, only the sword he had taken and the desperate strength of someone fighting for something more precious than his own life. One by one, they fell. Lancelot was the greatest knight in the world, and even unarmed, even outnumbered, he was unstoppable. Blood slicked the floor. Men screamed. The air filled with the smell of iron and fear. In the darkness and confusion, two young knights tried to hold back. Gaheris and Gareth, who had always admired Lancelot, who had never wanted this. But in the crush of bodies and shadows, Lancelot did not see their faces. He only saw enemies. His sword found them both. They died quickly. They died without armor, without even drawing their weapons. When the last man fell, Lancelot stood alone in the corridor, breathing hard, covered in blood. Bodies lay all around him. The only one missing was Mordred, who had slipped away the moment the fighting began, ensuring he would survive to tell the tale. Lancelot stumbled back into the chamber. Guinevere stared at him, her face streaked with tears. "I have to leave," he said, his voice ragged. "They'll come for me, an army. But I swear to you, Guinevere, I swear I will come back. I will not let them harm you." "Lancelot, I will come back," he said again, and kissed her. One last time. Then he turned and ran, disappearing into the night, leaving behind a trail of blood and a love that had cost them everything. Chapter 4, Trial and Rescue. Dawn came cold and grey over Camelot. Arthur returned to find his castle in chaos. Guards running, servants whispering, and when he reached the Queen's wing, he saw the bodies. 12 knights, slain in the corridor. Among them, Agravaine, and two others, two young men he had watched grow from boys. Gaheris, Gareth, Gawain's brothers. Gentle Gareth, who had loved Lancelot like a hero, who had never raised his sword in anger. Arthur knelt beside them. He touched Gareth's cold face, and something inside him, something that had been cracking for years, finally shattered. Guinevere was found in her chambers, still dressed, staring at nothing. They arrested her without a word. She did not resist. She walked through the corridors like a ghost, while people she had known for years turned away, unable to meet her eyes. Arthur could not look at her. He sat in his throne room, staring at the round table, at all those empty seats. So many gone now. Galahad, Percival, Bors, and now these 12. The table was dying, piece by piece. His advisors came to him. The law was clear, they said. Adultery by a queen was treason. The penalty was death. There was no choice. But there is always a choice. Arthur could have pardoned her. He was the king. His word was law. But he was also a king who had built his realm on justice, on the idea that no one, not even he, stood above the law. To make an exception for her would be to unmake everything he had created. So he made the choice that would haunt him for the rest of his days. Guinevere was sentenced to burn at the stake. The execution was set for 3 days hence. In the hall, when Gawain heard the news, he let out a sound like a wounded animal. His brothers, his dear brothers, killed by the man he had loved and trusted. Rage and grief warred inside him, tearing him apart. But even through his pain, he knew the truth. Lancelot had not meant to kill them. It had been dark. They had not been in armor. It was an accident born of desperation. Still, they were dead, and Lancelot had killed them. Gawain went to Arthur. "My king," he said, his voice hollow. "I know you must do what you must. But please, spare the queen. Lancelot is the guilty one. Let him bear the punishment." Arthur looked at him with eyes that had aged a lifetime in a single night. "The law makes no such distinction, Gawain. I am sorry." The day of execution came. A platform had been built in the central square of Camelot. A stake rose from its center, surrounded by bundles of wood and kindling. The sky was overcast, heavy with unshed rain. Crowds gathered, silent and grim. No one cheered. No one celebrated. This was a funeral, not a spectacle. Guinevere was led out in a white gown, her hair unbound, her face calm. She had wept all her tears in the days before. Now there was only a strange, distant peace. She climbed the platform. They bound her to the stake. Arthur sat on a raised dais, dressed in black. His face was like carved stone. Beside him, Gawain stood, tears streaming down his face. The executioner approached with a torch. The crowd held its breath. And then, from the far side of the square, a shout. Hoofbeats. The sound of steel. People scattered, screaming. Lancelot came like a storm. He rode at the head of 20 knights, all loyal to him, all willing to die for him. They crashed into the square with swords drawn, cutting through the guards. Chaos erupted. People ran. Soldiers tried to form a line and were swept aside. Lancelot leaped from his horse and ran to the platform. With one stroke of his sword, he cut the ropes binding Guinevere. She fell into his arms. He lifted her, turned, and ran back through the carnage. More knights fell. More blood soaked the stones. In the chaos, Lancelot did not see the faces of those he killed. He only knew he had to get her out, had to save her, had to keep her safe. They reached the horses. He lifted Guinevere onto his saddle and swung up behind her. His knights closed ranks around them. And together, they rode out through the gates of Camelot, leaving behind a city in ruins and a king with a broken heart. They did not stop until they reached Joyous Gard, Lancelot's castle in the north. There, behind high walls and loyal men, they were safe. But safety, as they would learn, is not the same as peace. Chapter 5: The Sundering of the Round Table. The kingdom divided. It happened almost overnight. Knights who had sat together at the Round Table, who had fought side by side, who had sworn oaths of brotherhood, now found themselves on opposite sides of an unbridgeable divide. Some remained loyal to Arthur. They saw Lancelot as a traitor, a man who had betrayed his king in the deepest way possible. Others followed Lancelot. They saw him as a man caught by love, defending the woman he cherished from an unjust sentence. The arguments in the hall grew heated, then violent. Friendships shattered. Brothers took different sides. Gawain, despite his grief, despite everything, stood by Arthur. He had to. Arthur was his king, his family. But the rage inside him would not quiet. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Gareth's face. Sweet Gareth, who had never wanted to fight anyone. I will have vengeance. Gawain swore. For my brothers, I will see Lancelot pay. Arthur assembled an army. It felt like madness, marching against Lancelot, against the man who had been his right hand, his champion, his friend. But the law had been broken. Blood had been spilled. The kingdom demanded justice. They rode north and laid siege to Joyous Gard. The siege lasted weeks. Lancelot's castle was strong, his knights skilled and loyal. Arthur's forces surrounded it, cutting off supplies, waiting. But Lancelot would not sally forth. He refused to attack his king. I will not raise my sword against Arthur, he told his men. Defend the walls, but do not strike the first blow. Inside the castle, Guinevere wandered the halls like a shade. She blamed herself for everything. The deaths, the war, the breaking of the fellowship. She spoke little. She ate less. She was fading, like a flower cut from its roots. Outside, Arthur sat in his tent and stared at maps he no longer cared about. Gawain paced like a caged wolf, demanding they storm the walls, burn the castle, drag Lancelot out and make him pay. It could have gone on forever. But then, the Pope intervened. A letter arrived from Rome, carried by a cardinal in crimson robes. The Holy Father had heard of the conflict. He was displeased. A Christian king warring against his own knights over matters of the heart? Unacceptable. The letter was clear. Arthur must take back his queen. He must pardon her. And Lancelot must surrender her and leave the kingdom. Arthur had no choice. To defy the Pope would mean excommunication, the loss of legitimacy, the unraveling of everything. He agreed to the terms. Lancelot, when he heard, bowed his head and accepted. He would give up Guinevere. He would leave Britain. If that was the price for her safety, he would pay it. The day came when he had to let her go. They stood together in the courtyard of Joyous Gard. The sky was pale blue, the air warm with early summer. Birds sang in the trees. It was a beautiful day, which somehow made it worse. "This is not the end," Lancelot said, though they both knew he was lying. "I know," Guinevere whispered. He held her one last time, felt the warmth of her, the beating of her heart against his. Then he let go. She was escorted back to Camelot under guard, dressed in simple grey, her face hidden by a veil. When she arrived, Arthur was waiting. They looked at each other across the courtyard. So much had been said. So much had been broken. Now there were no words left. She retreated to her chambers, he to his. And in the expanse between, only a vast, aching silence. Chapter 6, Exile and Omens. Lancelot left Britain on a grey morning when mist covered the land like a shroud. He took with him those knights who still followed him, loyal men who had given up their places at the Round Table for his sake. Together, they sailed across the narrow sea to France, to the lands Lancelot had inherited from his father, King Ban. There, he built a new court. Not Camelot, never Camelot, but a place of refuge. But even in exile, he could not escape the past. At night, he dreamed of her, of Camelot, of Arthur, and he woke with tears on his face. Back in Britain, Gawain could not let it rest. Every day, he went to Arthur. Every day, he pleaded, demanded, insisted. "My brothers lie in the ground," he said, "unavenged. You must call Lancelot to account. You must make him pay for what he did." At first, Arthur resisted. He was tired. So tired. The thought of more war, more death, more loss. It was unbearable. But Gawain would not stop. His grief had become a fire that consumed him, and he would not rest until it was fed. Finally, Arthur gave in. "Very well," he said. "We will go to France. We will demand justice. But Gawain, I do this for you and for your brothers, not because I want it." Preparations began. An army was assembled. Ships were readied. And in Arthur's absence, someone needed to rule. Someone needed to hold the kingdom. Mordred stepped forward. "Father," he said, "let me serve you in this. I will be your regent. I will keep Britain safe while you are gone." Arthur looked at him. Something in Mordred's eyes made him uneasy. Some glint of ambition barely hidden. But he was Arthur's son, his blood, and there were few others he could trust with such a task. "Very well," Arthur said. "I name you regent. Rule wisely, rule justly, and I will return soon." Mordred bowed deeply. When he raised his head, he was smiling. The night before the fleet departed, strange things happened. Owls cried in the darkness. Horses screamed in their stables. And some said they saw a figure on the battlements, an old man in grey robes with a staff, watching. "Merlin," they whispered, though Merlin had been gone for years, trapped in his crystal cave. Arthur dreamed that night. In his dream, he stood on a battlefield covered in bodies. The sky was red, and a voice spoke to him, sad and ancient, "If you leave this land, you will never return as you were. All that you have built will fall. Stay, Arthur, stay." He woke in darkness, his heart pounding. But when morning came, he boarded the ship anyway. Because Gawain endured in the shadows. Because honor's call was absolute. A king he was, and the throne does not stoop to the whispers of a dream. The fleet sailed at dawn. Hundreds of ships, white sails billowing in the wind, carrying the last strength of Arthur's kingdom across the sea. It was a magnificent sight. Banners streamed. Armor glinted in the sun. The people of Camelot gathered on the shores to watch them go. Guinevere stood on the highest tower of the castle, alone. She watched the sails grow smaller and smaller until they disappeared into the horizon. The wind pulled at her hair. She did not move. Somewhere in her heart, she knew. She would never see Arthur again. Not truly. Not as he had been. In the great hall, Mordred walked slowly to the throne. He ran his hand along the carved armrest, feeling the smooth wood beneath his palm. Around him, the few remaining knights and courtiers watched in silence. He sat down. And he smiled. So ends the 8th tale of Arthur. A tale of love and loyalty, of choices made and prices paid. The round table, which had shone so brightly, was crumbling now. Its fellowship broken. Its knights scattered across the seas. But the end has not yet come. There is still one more betrayal to unfold. One more battle to be fought. One last stand at a place called Camelot, where Arthur will face his greatest enemy, and discover that some wounds cannot be healed. But that is a story for another night. For now, rest. Let the tale settle into your dreams. And know that even in the darkest of stories, there is beauty. There is love. There is the knowledge that we, like Arthur and Lancelot and Guinevere, are only human. We do our best. We fail. We hurt each other. And still, we love. Sleep well, dear listener. Until we meet again. Good night.